The year was 1985. Ron and Nancy were in the White House, the Berlin Wall was intact, and the Cold War was very much alive. Now that sounds like a job for Rocky. Most 80s action flicks spawned plenty of sequels, and Rocky was no exception. More rounds followed. In Rocky IV, American pride is on the line when our favorite southpaw from the city of brotherly love travels behind the Iron Curtain to face the merciless Ivan Drago and avenge his friend Apollo. Drago is the paragon of Soviet superiority, and he trains in a state-of-the-art gym that obviously costs a ton of rubles. He's accompanied by his leggy wife and spokesman, his ruthless manager Nikolai Koloff, and the entire Soviet Politburo. But don't worry, our hero has his own ragtag lovable entourage, and these are their stories. I'm W.H. Stratton here with What Happened, and if you don't mind, uppercut that thumbs up icon for us, and subscribe to the channel so we can notify you about new videos, and click that bell so you never miss a beat. Now it's time to cue the training montage, and let us show you what happened. Carl Weathers. Carl was a beefcake who played defensive end at San Diego State, enjoying that 11-0 record in 1969. He then went on to play for the Oakland Raiders and pursued acting after retiring from football. And he didn't start out on a good note. Weathers accidentally punched Sylvester Stallone while sparring during his audition, and when Sly told him to calm down, he complained about not getting to audition with the real actor. Director John G. Avildsen notified Weathers that Stallone was the real actor, and his reply was, quote, "Well, maybe he'll get better." And so Stallone reportedly offered Weathers the role on the spot. And Carl would later team up with Schwarzenegger in Predator, and played the title role in 1987's Action Jackson. He took his first comedy role in 1996 as Chubbs in Happy Gilmore, before playing a recurring role as himself on Arrested Development. He's a penny-pinching, struggling actor in the show, but in real life, he stays very busy. He appeared as Greef Karga in The Mandalorian in 2019, and earned an Emmy nomination for Outstanding Guest Actor, as well as directing an episode of the acclaimed Disney show. During the filming of 2006's Rocky Balboa, Weathers declined to allow footage from earlier films to be used as a flashback, and held out for an actual role. Sly instead opted to cast a lookalike for the flashbacks, but the now 74-year-old Weathers did make up with Sly, and allowed footage from previous films to be used in 2015's Creed. Talia Shire. Talia Rose Coppola was born on April 25, 1946 in Long Island, New York. Like her on-screen character Adrienne, she too struggled with shyness. Her solution was attending Yale Drama School. She worked on several of Roger Corman's exploitation films, before getting her big break as Connie Corleone in the greatest film of all time, The Godfather. Some say there was some nepotism involved, but our researchers were unable to confirm those allegations. Get your head back into the sand. Adrienne gave Rocky the strength he needed throughout the first 5 films, and then her character made the ultimate sacrifice for the sake of the story. When production began on Rocky Balboa, Stallone and Shire decided that it would give Rocky's character a greater sense of loss if Rocky Balboa was a widower. Rest in peace, Adrienne! Tony Burton. Tony Burton was born in Flint, Michigan in 1937, and played Duke the Cornerman. Duke and Paulie were the only 2 members of Rocky's camp to travel to the Soviet Union, and Tony Burton and Bert Young are also the only actors besides Stallone to appear in all 6 Rocky flicks. Tony Burton was a heavyweight boxer in real life, achieving a 16-3 professional record, once even holding the Arizona light heavyweight title. The man also served 3 years in prison for armed robbery, where he first became interested in acting. Prior to Rocky, Burton played a number of TV guest spots. He also played a small role in The Shining and played chess with director Stanley Kubrick on location. Checkmate, you win.
This is checkmate.
Burton was inducted into the Greater Flint Afro-American Hall of Fame in 1993, and the actor and boxer died in 2016 at the age of 78. Bert Young. Bert Young was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his performance as Paulie, Adrian's abusive brother and Rocky's brother-in-law. Paulie is an abusive slob in the first film, but transforms into a more lovable slob in the later films. But he is a great comic foil to Rocky, always jealous of Rocky's success, and he even finds fault with his robot servant. But Paulie sure does come in handy when you need a tender or comedic moment to break up the monotony of all those training montages. The character Paulie died in 2012 and was laid to rest next to Adrian, but we're happy to report Bert Young is still alive and well, and is an extremely sought-after character actor with over 150 film credits and counting. Bert Young will be 82 years old in April of 2022, and he's still acting too. Check him out in the 2021 movie Charlie Boy. Michael Pataki. Drago's manager Nikolai Koloff constantly boasts of Soviet superiority and generates more heel heat than the Iron Sheik. Even his protege eventually has enough by the end of the film. Koloff was played to mastery by longtime film heavyweight Michael Pataki, who previously played a Soviet defector in an episode of WKRP in Cincinnati. Michael's career spanned 5 decades, and he appeared in numerous films and TV shows, playing a Klingon in the famous Trouble with Tribbles episode of the OG Star Trek show, and later playing a dignitary in an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. Michael Pataki voiced George Licker for the Ren and Stimpy show, and reprised that role multiple times. But sadly, this dynamic actor died from cancer in 2010, but had already completed his recordings for the short film Cans Without Labels, which was released in 2019 and dedicated to his memory. Dolph Lundgren. Born in Stockholm, Sweden, Dolph Lundgren became interested in martial arts while he was still in the military. Lundgren currently holds the rank of 4th Dan black belt in Kyokushin karate, and his story is interesting. After receiving a master's degree in chemical engineering in 1982, Lundgren decided to move to New York City and pursue acting instead of engineering. His film debut was A View to Kill, and Lundgren subsequently beat out over 5,000 hopefuls to earn the role of Ivan Drago in a grueling 9-month audition process. And Lundgren has subsequently appeared in over 30 feature films for the direct-to-video market, as well as teaming up with former on-screen rival Sly Stallone for The Expendables in 2010. And the 4th installment of the series is currently in post-production. In Creed 2, we also learned that Drago's name was tainted forever after his loss to Rocky. So much for Glasnost. Brigitte Nielsen. When you have 6.5 feet of Soviet beefcake entering the ring, you need an equally statuesque wife to escort him. Ludmilla Drago was played by Danish actor and model Brigitte Nielsen, who herself stands at 6 feet tall. Ludmilla met Drago after winning a couple of gold medals for Mother Russia in swimming, and the rest is history. But the story behind the scenes of Rocky IV might have been more interesting than the movie itself. That's because Nielsen and Sly fell in love and became engaged during the production of Rocky IV, and they got married shortly after the film's release. Their marriage made tabloid headlines until they divorced 19 months later. Nielsen then moved back to Europe, but returned to the US in 2004 to appear on MTV's reality show The Surreal Life. It was there when she met rapper Flavor Flav and began their highly publicized relationship. In July 2007, Nielsen checked herself into rehab to deal with her drinking problem, and she's still reportedly sober. As for her relationship with Flavor Flav, her take is that it's time for the tabloids to move on.
It's 10 years ago, guys, give me a break.
Sylvester Stallone. And now for our main event. Michael Sylvester Gardenzio Stallone was born in New York City on July 6, 1946, the eldest son of Francesco and Jacqueline Stallone. Sly had a complicated birth and got his signature snarl because doctors misused a second pair of forceps, accidentally severing a nerve. Stallone turned to bodybuilding and acting to cope with the bullying he experienced because of his speech and appearance, a decision that was a knockout, as Rocky was the highest grossing grossing movie of 1976, and the first sports film to win an Academy Award for Best Picture. But the movie's biggest fights took place behind the scenes. The producers initially offered Stallone $350,000 for the script, but he refused to sell unless he was allowed to star in the film. Sly reportedly only had $106 in the bank at the time, but agreed to work for scale as an actor, receiving no compensation for the writing. And Rocky IV would be the highest grossing sports movie of all time, before getting blindsided in 2009 by The Blind Side. At this point, we don't know if a follow-up to 2018's Creed II is forthcoming, but Last Blood was released in 2019, and The Expendables 4 is currently in post-production. And as of 2020, the Turtles, Cuff and Link are also still alive and well. The Rocky franchise is one of the best sports franchises ever, and Rocky IV may have not received as much critical acclaim as its first film, but we're pretty sure it was partially responsible for the end of the Cold War 4 years later. In the late rounds, the crowd in Moscow roots for Rocky. The champ emerges victorious, and then delivers a speech that even got Bizarro Gorbachev on his feet. So now it's your turn. What is your favorite Rocky moment out of all the films? Who was his greatest opponent? And what's up with Paulie and that robot? Get in the comments and you let us know. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And please come back often so we can keep telling you what happened.